Have you ever heard your name whispered in an empty place? A low, almost inaudible voice echoing through the silent walls of a house, calling you by name. It's not something you can easily ignore. It's unsettling, intriguing. And that's exactly what happened to Laura and Mateus. They were just a young couple, full of dreams and plans for the future. Everything seemed perfect when they bought that old house, the spacious rooms, the tall windows letting in sunlight, the air of mystery surrounding every corner. But on their very first day, something strange happened. While exploring the living room, a door slammed shut on its own. Loud. Too loud. They stopped, looking at each other, speechless. It was only the beginning. Laura and Mateus had everything planned. A new house, new opportunities, a fresh start. They moved in with enthusiasm, imagining how they would decorate each room, how they would turn that old building into a home. The house was beautiful at first glance, high ceilings, worn wooden floors, a spiral staircase leading to the second floor. But there was something different. Something they didn't notice during the initial visit. That afternoon, while unpacking, small incidents began to occur. A picture fell off the wall for no apparent reason. A cabinet in the hallway opened slowly, even though the wind was closed. Laura nervously laughed, saying it must be the house getting used to its new residents. Mateus agreed, but both felt a shiver run down their spines. Maybe it was just paranoia. Or maybe it was something much darker. At first, Laura and Mateus tried to ignore the small incidents. After all, old houses often creak, groan, and surprise with doors that open on their own. But it soon became clear that this house was different. Very different. Laura started noticing strange things in the bathroom mirror. When she looked at it, she saw her reflection smiling even when she wasn't happy. Other times, her image appeared to cry despite her dry eyes. She avoided looking directly at it, but the visions continued to haunt her. Mateus also faced problems. At night, he heard voices calling out to him, a rough, distorted voice echoing through the bedroom. The words were familiar, "You were never good enough." He immediately recognized those phrases. They were the same ones his father had repeated for years before passing away. The couple began questioning their own sanity. Maybe it was just stress-induced hallucinations from the move. Or perhaps the house harbored something far more sinister hidden within its walls. Each passing day brought more frequent and intense events. They knew something wasn't right, but they still couldn't grasp the true reason. Nights turned into constant nightmares. The house seemed to come alive, as if every object had an independent mind. Doors locked automatically, even when Laura and Mateus were outside. Windows burst open, letting in cold gusts of wind that made the hairs on their necks stand up. One day, while exploring the basement, Laura found something that froze her in place. A small piece of yellowed paper was wedged under a dusty shelf. On it, a handwritten message, "They are here." The handwriting was strange, almost childish, but carried a sense of urgency she couldn't ignore. Things worsened that night. Blood began slowly dripping down the walls of the main bedroom, forming torturous words, "Leave." Mateus tried wiping it with a cloth, but the blood reappeared as if sprouting directly from the walls. The two ran to the living room, searching for any explanation, but shadows began dancing around them, vague forms that seemed to watch from afar, always just out of direct sight. Laura swore she saw a human figure pass by the corner of the couch, but when she looked again, no one was there. Mateus reported something similar. He saw a small child playing in the hallway, laughing softly, before vanishing into thin air. The couple realized they needed to leave, but something invisible held them captive. It was as if the house didn't want to let them go. They understood then that this structure wasn't just a dwelling. It was a prison. A prison made of memories, fears, and hidden secrets. Desperate for answers, Laura and Mateus began digging deeper into the house's history. They visited local libraries, consulted ancient records, and spoke with longtime city residents. That's when they uncovered something chilling. The house had been built over an indigenous cemetery. Centuries ago, this land was sacred to a local tribe, but colonizers ignored warnings and erected the building directly on top of the graves. The souls trapped there never found peace. They were condemned to wander eternally, seeking vengeance or redemption. The accounts were terrifying. Previous occupants of the house had mysteriously disappeared over the years. Some were found dead weeks later, others simply vanished without a trace. There were also mentions of an ancient ritual performed by members of the indigenous tribe, designed to free the trapped souls. The only problem? The ritual required a sacrifice. Something living had to pay the price for the spirit's freedom. Laura and Mateus knew there was no other choice. If they wanted to escape this wooden and stone prison, they had to confront the unknown. They gathered everything they could find about the ritual and prepared for the following night. It was their only chance. But what they didn't know was that some things don't want to be set free. The night was eerily silent, yet the air was heavy with palpable tension. Laura and Mateus stood in the center of the main room, surrounded by lit candles that cast flickering shadows on the walls. On the floor, they drew ancient symbols with white chalk, carefully following instructions from the historical records. Every stroke seemed to resonate through the house, as if the very walls were watching their every move. Mateus held an aged parchment, reading aloud in a strange, guttural language. With each phrase spoken, the atmosphere shifted gradually. The candles wavered without wind, and the floor beneath their feet began to vibrate slightly. Laura felt a sudden chill creep down her spine as distant murmurs filled the air, voices coming from all directions at once. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into momentary darkness. When they returned, the shadows on the walls had taken human forms, ethereal figures advancing slowly toward the couple. Their eyes were vacant, yet filled with an insatiable hunger. "Keep going," Laura shouted, despite the fear threatening to paralyze her. Mateus quickened his pace, uttering the final words of the ritual. Then it happened, an explosion of energy swept through the room, knocking both of them to the ground. The air grew dense and suffocating, and the shadows converged upon them. They weren't just visions anymore, they were real, tangible. Laura tried to rise, but her hands wouldn't respond. She realized something was taking control of her body, moving it against her will. Mateus was also being overtaken, his eyes turning opaque as the spirits invaded their minds. They had freed the entities, but in doing so, allowed them to possess their bodies. When it was over, silence reigned in the house. The candles extinguished themselves, leaving only darkness. But something remained. Something that should never have escaped. The next day, a forensic team was called to the house after reports of suspicious activity in the neighborhood. Upon entering, they found Laura and Mateus dead in the main room, surrounded by extinguished candles and strange symbols drawn on the floor. The scene was horrifying, but something even more disturbing awaited discovery. Security cameras installed at the entrance captured images that froze the investigators. As they combed through the house, two human-shaped shadows were seen walking calmly down the hallways, silently, methodically observing every movement of the intruders. The shadows were indistinct, but their outlines were unmistakable: Laura and Mateus. They had been possessed by the trapped souls, transforming into eternal guardians of the house. Now, they were free to continue their existence. Or perhaps not. After all, the spirits were never fully satisfied. The team quickly left, fearing what might happen if they stayed longer. But before closing the door, a soft whisper echoed, "Next time, it'll be you." The house remained, waiting. They're still there. Subscribe to our channel for more real horror stories. You never know what's hidden behind the walls, or inside yourself.